The TSW Round Table is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Follow at SW Commonwealth on Twitter and take your first steps into a larger world.
Hello there.
You want the bad news?
Roger, roger.
The Force. It's calling to you.
This is not going to go the way you think.
Now you will experience the full power of the dark side.
That's not how the Force works.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
This is madness.
Let the past die. Kill it.
It's a trap! Fulfill your destiny. No!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the TSW Round Table. I am your moderator, Robert Cass, and today we are finally getting back to our retrospective series, and we are covering The Force Awakens. Fortunately, I do not have to do it alone. With me today is my good friend from across the provincial border in Quebec, Kyle from Tumbling, Saber. Comment ça va, Kyle?
Oh, ça va bien. Monsieur Robert Cass.
Oui, that is I. I would speak more French, but growing up in Northern Ontario, I can swear at you, proposition you, and ask who farted. But until I actually visit Quebec, I thought I was bilingual. Apparently, I'm not.
Well, as a Quebecer, we are obliged to say yes to all those things anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
We take all propositions, all bribes.
There we go. So a little Canadian humor to start us out. So Kyle from the Tumbling Saber here. He's going to be my co-host, but we are also enjoyed. We are joined by my good friend, Knight of the Commonwealth, Matt. How you doing, Matt?
How you doing, guys? Ahoy, ahoy.
So we're getting excited here. We took a little hiatus. We had other roundtables. We were celebrating our good friend Steve Kirk, and we lost him over the summer. But now we push forward and we continue, enjoying what we're enjoying. And this is a look back at The Force Awakens. We're not going to have a beat for beat. This scene to that scene, this scene to that scene. This is just three dudes talking about where they were, what they thought, how they liked the movie, what they were thinking at the time, and just reminiscing The Force Awakens. I usually pass it off first, but I'm going to start this real quick. I just have something to say with the announcement of Force Awakens. Well, it wasn't an announcement of The Force Awakens. It was an announcement of the Disney takeover. Now, Kyle and I are from the OT generation. And I enjoyed the prequels when they came out, but they came out when I was in my 20s by that time. So, but this was the long-awaited what happened after Return of the Jedi. We thought we were never going to get it. Disney buys Lucasfilm and says, yes, we are continuing the saga. So the hype for this was unbelievable. But there's a couple things that happened with this movie that made it as good as it was at the box office, especially, and as well received. We were super excited. We were finally getting part 7 of the saga. But because of the backlash to Phantom Menace, when we had another dry spell, and then all of a sudden, we're getting 3 more Star Wars movies. I enjoyed the Phantom Menace, but we all know the criticism, and we're not here to poo-poo other movies, but we all know, people's Jar Jar, people's thoughts on the movie. They didn't like it. They like the OT. What's George doing? Da-da-da-da. So I think going into Force Awakens, we were super excited, but we didn't raise our bar too high, thinking, let's just see. Phantom Menace, we're like, bar was through the roof. It's like, George has unlimited funds, and he has now this new unlimited CGI technology. Just imagine what we're going to see. Now we just went into this one going, okay, we're excited, but we've seen what happened before. So, Kyle, Disney takeover. You got this news. Of course, we had no idea it was The Force Awakens. We just knew 7 was coming. What were you thinking? And you can even touch on it. Spawned a podcast, apparently, right?
It might have.
It might.
Well, at the time, we're right up against the, I guess, 7th anniversary of that takeover. I think it was in late October of 2012 when the announcement came.
Wow.
And I was not working at the time. I had been laid off that late summer, early fall, and I was at home. I was just, scrolling through the job ads that one morning, and then this news comes through that Disney purchases Lucasfilm, and everything just kind of slowed down around me. And I was just like, wait a second, why would that happen? That's kind of cool, I guess. Wait, does that mean more movies? Just like everything was just like slowly clicking together in my head. And then I'm reading the press release and the news and all that stuff, and it says more movies coming starting in 2015. And I was just like, oh my God. To the point where I had a hockey blog at the time that I stopped what I was doing there and just started blogging about Star Wars on my hockey blog.
Oh, nice.
I had to get my thoughts out there about that. I was like, oh no. And from that point, my blog kind of got mothballed as my head became bit by bit more and more consumed with Star Wars. But it turned my world upside down with that news. I thought we were done. I thought, Clone Wars animated series, I thought that was the future of Star Wars. Books, animated cartoons, that was going to be it. And I was satisfied, I suppose. We'd had 6 movies that told the whole story.
Yeah.
And then here we go with another live action trilogy, and with Disney at the helm, that I was like, this is it. Like, this is just going to go on forever.
Yeah. And again, I did Tumbling Saber it debuted just before The Force Awakens, I believe, or is my
it took a while. So I was an AM sports radio junkie,
right? Yeah.
And I slowly got bored of that, and I slowly got into podcasts around early 2014. Star Wars podcasts began to creep into my feed, and after a while, I was like, well, I could do a Star Wars podcast. Why can't I do a Star Wars podcast? Because I had this mindset that, well, other people do that, and I just take it in.
Right.
Well, what's the real big deal with this? Why can't I do it? So I eventually got the guts to start my own, which first episode came out like 4 days before The Force Awakens. I really wanted to get predictions and thoughts out there before TFA came out.
Yeah, but again, this is the Disney takeover, and this movie sounds like it was the spark that ignited the
oh, absolutely, for
the podcast
for so many people too. I mean, there's now hundreds and hundreds of Star Wars podcasts, and there'd be a fraction of that without this new era.
Well, yeah, and again, this is just personal history. Like I used to listen to my good buddy Wayne Chamberlain from high school had a podcast. This is even before I was aware you can get it on your phone or what so they covered what they consider now legends books, Star Wars novels, and it was a Star Wars book report, and then they turned it into Temple Archives or something, changed the name. So this was a thing, and I'm like, how do I listen to this? He's like, do you have iTunes? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I started getting into, oh wow, and with my job I can wear an earbud, so I like you, Kyle, I was a talk radio guy. I'm in the Toronto area, so obviously it was a lot of, I'm not a Leafs fan, but it was a lot of Leafs talk, unfortunately, but whatever. For hockey talk, but it was still the appeal of people sitting around a table and yakking was what turned me on to it. And then fast forward a little bit, I have a buddy of mine, Roman LeBeau. Some of you have know from his acting and other. He does another podcast. Anyway, he was bugging me. He was bugging me to start a what they call now a broadcast, just a couple dudes, because whenever we were in a Tim Hortons and we'd be talking at a table and just playing off each other and joking around, the table beside us would always be bursting out laughing, listening to our stupidity, right? And then he's like, we got to do this. And then, well, I don't think anybody wants to listen to it. Now I got 185 episodes proving, yes, nobody wants to listen to it. So, but anyway, so once I figured out the technology of it, I'm kind of a music guy, so I got all the interfaces for my computer. I had all the gear, but I just had to figure out how to do it. So I put it all together. We started our podcast, and we started around the same time. Right. So it was Roman Ponticast, Tumbling Saber, Talk Star Wars, which we're on now, was inspired to start up with the news of the Disney takeover. Because we're all within that.
The Nerd Room as well. We're all sort of in that that area of 180 to 195 episodes or so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Disney buying was like a burst of super nerd power that just like
Yep.
So what happened with me is like I gotta do a Star Wars one. I was hit by that bug too. I'm like, now, but I know what it's like to produce a show. So I don't want to. Maybe So then I was able to wrangle. I talked to my good buddy Mark Godsiff and then Rob Wade. Fast forward, you're listening to the TSW Round Table. That's the origin story. So this movie spawned fandom and content creation and everything else. So that's what it was unbelievable when this was first announced. So Matt, what about you? You come from a little different angle. I know I'm mid 40s. Kyle, you're in the 40 club now. Matt, you're 20 years my junior. So how did the news of Force Awakens hit you? Were you a prequels kid, or was it off your radar?
No, I was definitely a prequels kid. I think for me, when the news of Disney's takeover, it wasn't something that I was really shocked about. I mean, obviously I was a little shocked that Disney bought it, but Star Wars had always kind of been a presence in it. I never had that dark times that you guys had,
right?
Because I mean, growing up, when I was born, 3 years later, Phantom Menace came out, and so I kind of grew up with the Star Wars movies, and so Revenge of the Sith rolls around, and it never really seemed to stop for me. So it was just kind of like, well, of course they're making more movies, of course they're making, And so it was just kind of that thing where it kind of was like, for me, a natural progression. And I went into The Force Awakens relatively cold. I think I just watched the trailers. Back then I wasn't involved in all this speculating, or I didn't even know about podcasts back then, but I didn't even get involved with all the speculating. So when I came in to The Force Awakens, I kind of sat there and I really had absolutely no idea what was going to be on the screen in front of me. So
also too, from your perspective as a kid, you don't know the politics of financing these things and who's taking over. So you were born 3 years later, Phantom Menace came out. Hey, when I was born 3-4 years later, a little movie called Star Wars came out, which I saw at a drive-in with my parents in 1977. So for everybody with the TSW Roundtable bingo card, you're welcome. I have to mention that
everyone take a drink.
Yeah, I have to mention that every show. So I get you from that perspective. So when you saw Revenge of the Sith, was kind of like me seeing Return of the Jedi. Closed a book. That was a great trilogy. Trilogies were a thing, especially with you, Lord of the Rings. You know, there's a lot of other movies about just three. The perfect
number, yeah. Well, Revenge of the Sith was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. So
there you go.
Yeah, so
there we go.
Okay, kind of
that's good. So here we are. The news comes out. Now we're going to get around to what Kyle. Where were you? How'd you plan to see this movie? It was just an event, and especially
it was a huge event.
Now, to preface this, when we saw Han and Chewie on the trailer enter what we knew was the Falcon with their guns, with their guns pulled out, and Chewie were home. For us in our 40s, that was, you take all the money I have, just take it all.
This is Lucasfilm hanging us upside down, shaking us. Here you go.
Oh yeah, and they
take it.
Yeah, and now they got all our adult money. I don't know, childhood money when we used to save our allowance to buy that figure. Now they have all the adult money too. Like Force Awakens, what'd you do? Did you go alone? Did you go to the wife? Did you get a group of people? Or
I went with a small group. So we I think that was maybe the start of a tradition that we've had since Star Wars came back. And 3 of the 4 movies have been December releases. So what we would do is go out for dinner first, a little small group of us. So TFA, I think Corey was with me, James was with me, my good buddy Eric. There was a few of us. Carlos wasn't in the fold just yet. And we would go to a restaurant, have a dinner, and then go to the movie theater. And it was just like surreal. The whole thing was surreal. Like I think in 2014 we got that around Thanksgiving time, I believe. We got that real first teaser.
Right.
I think we got a sizzle reel before that. But yeah, I think U.S. Thanksgiving, that is, in 2014, we got a teaser, and then it all just felt so surreal. It's like, how are we back here? I can't believe this.
Yeah.
It was so exciting. And the images we were getting, it seemed so familiar. And I don't want this to be a hot take, but JJ being an OT guy, he's an OT devotee.
Right.
It seemed like he was very hell-bent on making sure that everything in the movie screamed Star Wars. So, I mean, they went right down to, BB-8's one of the first things we've seen. He's different, but he's still so Star Wars.
Yep.
We saw X-Wings, we saw TIE fighters, the Falcon. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I recognize this. And that was the whole intent of TFA, was just to call it a soft reboot, but that's essentially what it was. And we have, now that the Bob Iger's book is out, they've basically all but admitted that, yeah, this was just, it's a new hope warmed over. These are the beats we had to hit to make Star Wars. And I don't like to call it a flat out copy, but they knew what they were doing. They took the same visual look, gave it a fresh coat of paint, and just said, here you go. And we, of course, $2 billion, we lapped it up.
Oh, of course. For me, it was the Han, Chewie, Luke, Leia. We didn't know Luke wasn't going to be a huge part of the movie till we seen it. But the Falcon, new adventure, new bad guy. What's with that lightsaber with the broadsword look to it, with the little two spike? with the handle guards made out of, with more lightsaber coming out. And to sit in the theater, I went with my wife, and first opening night, first showing that was released in my area. And then when the Lucasfilm trickled on the screen, and then bam, with that Star Wars, that it starts shooting, comes out of the screen and backs out so you can see the whole thing, and then the crawl starts.
Goosebumps. I
can't even, I'm ashamed to say, not ashamed, but I was 40 at the time, and 41, and it was like, what? I just, unbelievable, the excitement. So Matt, was this you again? It's just a completely different perspective, completely different. Like, you knew of Han, Luke, Chewie, Leia, and all. Like,
oh, of course.
But it completely different look for you. Like, this is where you.
I wasn't aware of the hype so much behind this movie until I got to the theater.
Right.
And then it just hit me. Everybody was there, just like Jedi and just like stormtroopers. And it was just this like crazy explosion of things. And and at that moment, walking into the theater and just realizing this place is packed. First, my thing, I'm like, am I getting a seat? And then, just realizing just the hype surrounding this movie was unbelievable. And just in that moment, you could just feel the energy of everybody just dying to see it.
Well, I think I also too, with people your age, it was your membership card to the Falcon, to Leia's story, Luke's story, Han's story, Chewie. Like, it was, you had your 3PO with his red arm. Like, it was just like, now, like, that for the younger people, that was always just something that happened, that, oh, that's the reason why we have these cool prequels. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess for you now, it's like, hey, welcome to this. You get to see it happen. You get to see the Falcon on the big screen. Like,
right, correct.
And it's so iconic. You can't, unless you're in the moment. And it sounds ridiculous because everybody now, like I've got a 60-inch 4K television. When these things come out on 4K, or I got the Last Jedi on 4K. It looks amazing. Like, you could never have that quality before. But still, it's like, no, you had to be at the theater when it opened on that first week or that first weekend. You know what I mean? Like, that.
Oh yeah.
That, now you're there.
Oh yeah.
Like, you'll tell your kids, oh yeah, but you weren't there when the Force Awakens came out, or you weren't there when Endgame came out. Like, you weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't wrap your head around what.
Or Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah. Oh, geez.
Phantom Menace to me is still the bar for craziness surrounding a movie.
And
the Phantom Menace was higher than.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I think, that's
absolutely nuts.
But again, the backlash from Phantom Menace, like I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
is what tampered down. It's like the excitement for. It's almost like I looked at The Force Awakens like, oh my god, I'm going to see Motley Crue go on tour again. I'm not expecting Motley Crue from the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, so I was going to let Han and Chewie and Leia and Luke give them a little slack. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Sure.
I don't expect to be Tommy Lee of 1983. Like, no, like that's ridiculous. And so when you're watching this nostalgia. It's like, oh, look at that. There's Vince Neil. Wow, he got fat. But still, I'm watching Motley Crue. You can't, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, so I think we went in with that. We'll take what we can get. We're just glad they're having a victory lap, and this is great. So, but our minds were blown because it was a great movie. Like,
well, the Force Awakens already had so much goodwill because it had the original cast.
Exactly.
That there was no way no one was not gonna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people felt like, this is weird to say, but I think a lot of people felt like George Lucas didn't understand his own franchise. And of course, I'm not endorsing that train of thought, but a lot of people said, oh, George Lucas has no idea what he's doing anymore. I'm glad this has been passed on. J.J. Abrams was sort of a prince at the time. And yeah, it was just like everybody's down with this. They're down with what they see. It's a great way to put it, Rob. A victory lap for the OT cast.
Yep.
So it looked like everything we wanted to see a long time. We wanted
the big we.
And with the prequels, et cetera, et cetera. The stuff we wanted then is coming now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was DTF down the Force. So
exactly.
Okay, so let's now that we've chewed up that, let's get into the actual movie itself. Matt, highlights, favorite parts, like characters, like, just whatever. What do you Force Awakens?
Well, actually, to be honest, there's not a whole lot I dislike about this movie. I mean, you get the point that it is kind of a copy paste of the New Hope, but there's a lot of things that I really like about this movie, and probably one of my favorites is, though Luke is only in it and doesn't only in it for 30 seconds, doesn't say a word, the whole movie is about Luke. And it's just that kind of that, where's Luke? And we need Luke. And that search for Luke was kind of that tying force that's what the audience wanted to see. That's what the heroes on the screen were doing. And that was always kind of that, JJ and his mystery boxes. That was always kind of that really nice little mystery box that I was like, yeah, where is Luke?
Yeah.
And then once you kind of got into the film, you kind of forgot, and I don't want to be like, you forgot about Luke, but I kind of forgot about Luke. And I remember when I know a lot of people thought Luke was going to grab that lightsaber at the end. I'm jumping right to the end, but
yeah,
I didn't think so. I thought it was Rey. And so I think so many little things about this movie where it did kind of build off of the cast that we had. But I think it really introduced a lot of new characters that I personally enjoyed. And it showed the Falcon doing stuff that we've never seen it do. And it was just all these little things. But I had to say probably my favorite part of this movie is Han Solo. I think Han Solo, Harrison Ford just knocked it out of the park. It was just, for me, he just pulls the whole movie, and I just love his interactions with Chewbacca, and I just love him flying the Falcon. And it's a sad goodbye when we see him go, but yeah. I think it was probably my favorite part of my favorite Han performance of Harrison.
Him using Chewbacca's is it bowcaster? No, I'm thinking guitar. Yeah. Is it bowcaster? Yep. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking like Stratocaster. I got a telly back right behind me here. So I'm thinking, no, that can't be it. I'm like, no, yeah, you're right. So yeah, agree 100%. I think when we got to the end, all that excitement happened at Starkiller Base, and then I'm like, oh wait, we still got more because we haven't seen Luke yet. Like I was still expecting another half an hour with Luke. Like it was just, it was done well. Like it was really done well. Kyle, like Force Awakens, like what are your thoughts? Like,
well, when I came to I've always been a part of the fandom, but when this era started off and I started getting into the podcasts, and I was too weak to resist all of these spoilers out there. So I got wrapped up in what MSW was doing, and I read everything Jason Ward wrote. So I was spoiled on anything he wrote I knew.
Okay.
And he basically had the movie down pat. But it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie. It's not like I sat there going, oh, and now this is going to happen, and now that's going to happen. It was is this going to happen? Oh, it did. Cool. At least that was my reaction. But yeah, favorite moments of the movie. I love the Jakku chase, the graveyard chase with the Falcon.
Yes.
So cool. Just so good to see that Falcon back in action. Han Solo. It was, a great tour of duty, like Matt said, just to pick up on that thought. It put him in sort of unfamiliar territory. Yeah, sure, it put him back into the smuggler role, but it also put him into a spot where he had to he couldn't just talk his way out of situations anymore. Like he said, oh, I talk my way out of it every time. That's so Han Solo, except not this time. This time you're not going to talk your way out of it. And that's one of the great debates of that movie is when Han walked out to confront Ben. Was he sacrificing himself? Did he know that was going to happen? Or I believe Han Solo thought he was going to talk his way out of it and bring his son home. That's one of the great debates, but it was a great change in that character, bringing that character full circle. And of course the new characters I love immediately. Like I walked out of that theater absolutely thrilled with Rey, with Kylo, and how you can already see the performance in Adam Driver of how complex the character is. Finn was a lot of fun. Poe was charming, of course. When could Poe not be charming? Yeah. I was just enthralled with even though it felt like a very familiar movie, there was enough new characters and new developments in it, and enough mystery to it that it was like, okay, I'm back, and Star Wars is back, and let's do this, man. I was so happy with the result.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Getting just to touch on your spoilers, I was in line at concession stand. My wife works on the other side of town, so we kind of both had our ticket, and we were meeting at the theater. That way, if one of us if I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there for sure. Like I am always 15 minutes early for everything. It's just because I'm just the way I am. It's like, when you grow up, if you show up, if you have a meeting at 9:00, show up exactly at 9, you're late. I mean, that's just the way I was wired. But so there I am. I'm early. I text her, hey, I'm getting the popcorn, getting this. She's still on her way here. Great. We got our tickets for the movie. Not like lining up. I knew exactly where I was going to sit for this thing, like couple months before. I'm in line in concession. There's some millennial standing, because we're in that snake, that little snake. So he's basically standing beside me. He's like 10 people back, but he's on the other side of the rope there, talking to these two girls, trying to sound like he knows something about Star Wars. And I'm like, kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna like gatekeep or torchbearer or like, well, actually what you mean is blah, blah, blah. Like, no, nobody wants to hear that out of my mouth. And then he goes, oh, some people saw this movie in Australia, and did you know that Han Solo? And I just literally covered my ears like a 2-year-old and went, la, 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 la. Because I went 2 years with no spoilers. So you get a 40-year-old sitting there like acting like a 2-year-old. And then I was so wrapped up in the movie when by the time the Han Solo got his death scene rolled around, I forgot about the guy in line of concession. But thankfully, the movie was entertaining enough where I wasn't like, okay, I'm expecting something for Han Solo here. I'm expecting and I'm glad I did that little 2-year-old cover your ears and just shake.
Yeah, it just preserves the doubt just in case.
Exactly.
No, for sure.
Because you got somebody that gives no craps about this franchise, and I'm so looking forward to finally seeing my childhood heroes. And then you're gonna have some idiot spoil the movie for me in line at concession. I would have got to see the movie because I would have pulled his arms off like Chewbacca. I just would have like, so. Again, it's just, but I know that would have been a way overreaction, but it was like, as far as spoilers go, I almost had it spoiled at the very last minute, and that would have been, just
No good.
crush.
No good.
Just no good. No. So for me, Force Awakens, the beats it hits, BB-8, cool new droid, and I'm an R2 guy. He lives here. I built one. So R2 kind of being the missing piece because he was always the MacGuffin. The garbage will do, like when the Falcon, when they're
that's a great line.
That moment. Sorry, I don't want to. Yeah. It's sort of a funny story. As entrenched in spoilers as I was at that moment, I remember watching Jimmy Kimmel because I was, of course, trying to devour as much content as I could. So I stayed up late one night to watch Jimmy Kimmel because he had the cast on, and they were going to show a clip, and they showed that Rey and Finn running through the market, and the clip ends right where they say the garbage will do.
Yeah.
The clip ends, and I'm like, what happens next?
Yeah.
I don't I was like, what do you mean? And it never occurred to me that the camera would pan and show us the Falcon. It never entered my brain.
Yeah. And
what
then
an idiot.
and the music and John Williams, banana, like it's just.
So when I saw that in the theater, I was like, it was just like fireworks in my head.
Genius. Like that. And then the musical score right at that moment, the way they timed it, just like, there it is. There's the Falcon. Like I can't even, again. And it sounds like a couple old guys reminiscing, like just reliving their childhood. And it's like, and then again, I'm not in that camp where you can't ruin my childhood. You can't, you can give me a lot of, I'm a big sucker for nostalgia, but when like I said, that the garbage will do, the finding of the lightsaber, from Empire, like to everything about it, Han using the bowcaster, the new characters, like this new Kylo Ren, and is like, where'd you make it like that SNL skit when he's undercover boss dressed up as radar technician Matt. One of the stormtroopers says, yeah, it looks like a child made that, like, because it's but it's so cool. The dark is back. It's just everything. I just can't. I'm a little unforgiving with the science of it. Like, okay, wait, you're gonna have a planet that's gonna eat the sun and then fire twice? Well, if you've exhausted the sun the first time out, you have to let it go. I totally believe that someone's gonna tell a stormtrooper to drop his blaster and unlock her bindings with her mind, but no, I can't get around physics. It's like, no, Rob, just let it go. In hindsight, yeah, I'm a little that way, but in the moment, I loved it. Like, it was just,
yeah. I mean, there are criticisms to make of the movie, like,
of course,
like any Star Wars movie, but I think this movie is undeniably one of the funnest Star Wars movies. Like, it's, if you compare it to A New Hope, which, of course, like, not to beat a dead horse, but it follows a lot of the same beats. But if you watch them, and they have almost identical runtimes, which almost down to the minute. That also can't be an accident. But also, like, if you watch them, one feels kind of slow and plodding, in places, and the other is like boom, boom, boom. It just moves. Like The Force Awakens moves, and I think that's a must now for modern audiences, younger audiences. I think with so many options at kids' fingertips today, you gotta keep things moving.
Yeah,
and so the DFA just blitzes through the movie.
Well, I've mentioned this before when you're comparing the old to the new. That's why I think the special editions for the original trilogy has its place, only because I still have copies of the OT, like the original versions. Like, they came out on the DVD sets. So they give you the old and the new. And when I'm introducing this to my kids, I got a 16-year-old that I got to sit on the couch and have her mind. She wasn't 16 at the time, but when she was around 9 or 10, get her mind blown by Luke. No, I'm your father. So, but having them spiced up a little bit, George Lucas, that made them more palatable. So they flowed better when you're watching episodes 1 through 6.
Right. I agree.
You can't do anything about the comparison with, like you said, the 70s way of making movies, with just slog through instead of having, like, even the where the scene, like the Death Star scene with the old 70s computer graphics. This is how you're going to blow up the Death Star. This is our mission.
Yeah.
You mean, and then fast forward to Force Awakens when like they're all standing around that little hologram and like, okay, oh, here's the Death Star, boom, here's Starkiller Base. The exposition when they're explaining everything is like it's even more fast played. Like they did it way better, more modern.
Oh yeah.
Can we blow it up? Yeah, here's how. Yeah. And then, all right, so we're going to send everybody there. And we're going to blow it up. Okay, great. I like this kid. Let's go. Yeah. And they
1, 2, 3, break.
I love how Han's like, so it's bigger.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. We're just going to blow it up.
Exactly. So a couple things we have to touch on. New characters. Rey, Poe, Finn, Kylo. We'll just keep it to those because this is our new Darth, Luke, Leia, and Han, right? Like this is obviously in different gender swaps. So Matt, what do you new characters? You mentioned before you like them. You got a favorite? You got something?
Oh yeah. Poe's my favorite. Poe's awesome. Poe? I love the idea that and I hope because I think it would be nice to see Kylo and Poe in a dogfight in our next movie coming up. But I really do like that Poe is like, he's the best pilot, but he's like, I don't know, I know he didn't have a lot to do in The Force Awakens, and thank goodness Oscar Isaac begged JJ not to kill him. So,
and also too, would it be a pretty easy cosplay for you? Is what I'm sensing.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I got the hair. Yeah, exactly.
I do like Poe. Poe's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Rey. I really like the character. I think there was and I think this touches back onto what Kyle was saying, was that The Force Awakens had to move, and I think Rey had to move with it. So I think a lot of what she did was kind of sped up, but I think it was just to kind of get the movie to where we all recognized it, because if Luke wasn't going to show up till the end, you needed a lightsaber battle. Mm-hmm. You needed the Force. You needed someone to make that strong Force connection, and so Rey was the only person that was going to do it. Like, you were going to have Han pick up a lightsaber and start battling Kylo. So seeing Rey kind of move through this quicker force progression wasn't anything that I was really upset about. I mean, I questioned how she knew all this stuff, and I thought that this actually seeded more into the lore. And I remember coming out of The Force Awakens and speculating, maybe she was, a student of Luke's or something like that. And so, because there was, like JJ did with The Force Awakens, there was just a lot of mystery around everything. There was just a lot of things that JJ set up that he probably didn't even know the answer to. So, Rey was probably one of the characters that I think really kind of captured that Luke Skywalker vibe, desert planet and stuff like that. So I really like Luke. I'm not a huge fan of Finn. He just kind of seemed too goofy for me.
Yeah.
And one time, at one time he'll be a badass, and then another time he'll be being tased by a droid. One time he'll be going toe to toe with Kylo Ren, and then another time he's getting taken out by a stormtrooper. And he's just kind of this character that I think they were trying to go with this Han Solo kind of klutzy vibe, and I think they just kind of tilted too much in both directions.
Well, also too with Finn, it was you said the Han Solo vibe was like, you think Poe the pilot's going to be the Han Solo vibe? No, it's going to be Finn is the me first. I want to get off this. Why you want to go back to Jakku? I want to get far. He wasn't after like money like Han Solo. He was after his personal freedom, personal safety.
For sure.
Rey, I think, was amazing.
And she wasn't annoying like Luke.
No, exactly. She didn't want to go to
What's that flashing for?
Yeah, she didn't want to go to Tossie Station, hang out with her friends. Exactly. So, but we had all our originals, the big three, but just in different. They were swapped, and it wasn't just gender. It's just like, okay, that was, you had Carrie Fisher and Rey, but you also had Luke. And in Poe, you had Luke, but you also had Han. And Finn, you had Han, but you also had a little bit of Luke. It was just like, it was well done. Like, it was.
Oh yeah.
I think it was great. Kyle, what are our new big three, like, or big or four with Kylo? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously you have a big act to follow when you're bringing in Luke, Han, and Leia, or as the expectation was that you're bringing these three back. How do you? They told us, right? They told us this is sort of the movie that's going to pass the torch on to the next generation. So that's spelling out a lot for you. You know that there's going to be new characters to take up the mantle. So already the expectations on these characters is very high. You know, how can you replace Han, Luke, Leia? How do you do that? It's almost an insurmountable task. But I walked out of that theater with, I really liked everybody. I mean, I was like, wow, this movie is great. But specifically with Rey as the lead, I was like, fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
I connect, not that I could relate to her story, but I was like, wow, like I'm really invested in her character. Where is she from? Like what is her story? I want to know what's up with Rey. And I read at one point, I don't know if this was an official story, but somebody had said that, this part is true, that when Kathleen Kennedy approached J.J. Abrams about doing episode 7, he was like, I don't know. But the question that she put to him that brought him in was, who is Luke Skywalker? And so JJ said, well, having the rope sort of to tackle that question, to get into that, was what really sold me. I don't know that he answered that with TFA, to be honest, but one of the things I read coming out of that was that the new characters all had a piece of Luke Skywalker that were kind of developed a little bit. So obviously the parallels between Rey and Luke are there. Poe has the pilot aspect to him.
Okay.
Here's a little piece of Luke in each of these characters. And it could have been come from a blogger or a podcaster. I can't remember anymore. But I remember going, this is a really compelling piece. And I wanted to try and look it up before the show here, but I couldn't. It's old now. Obviously, it's a 4-year-old item. It's out there somewhere. I'll try and find it. But I thought, well, this is really cool. Like a very cool way of looking at this breakdown of who is Luke Skywalker. Because I was like, JJ, you didn't answer that. But when you look at it that way, that each of the characters are a piece of Luke, now it makes a little more sense, including Kylo, who always has that the dark side of Luke.
Well, on that note, also too, Kylo Ren, when he's walking around with the mask on, very Vader, very Vader-like. But again, the voice box, the microphone in his helmet is a little choppy. The lightsaber is a little, it's a little. It looks like, ooh, this is not as crisp. So it's almost like, you mean like it's somebody's cosplaying? You mean, but so he's very Vader-like when he's in his full regalia. As soon as you take the mask off, he's very Anakin-like.
Mm-hmm. Which they captured perfect.
Yeah, like it's just the longer hair. You mean they even gave him a scar on the face eventually. He's not Vader he's Anakin. Like there is, yet that is his grandfather, 1,000%.
And they made no bones about it either. Like this guy, you could tell, okay, that's going to be Han and Leia's son. Like, who didn't know that going in?
Right.
But you also go, oh yeah, he's a Vader fanboy for sure, and it's all artifice. It's all artifice. He's not Vader. Just look at him. He's a big goofball.
Yeah,
that's no Vader.
But
try as he might.
His angst, though, but his angst with being like Anakin. That's what I mean. His whiny, it's unfair. It's So, and sorry, Matt, I cut you up there.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, though, I think the sequel trilogy, probably the most interesting character to come out of this has been Kylo. I think out of all of them, he's the most intriguing. Not because I think a lot of it is about his lightsaber kind of symbolizes his unstable, his just rash nature. And I think that I know when I first came out of The Force Awakens, I thought Kylo was kind of weak. And I thought as a character, I mean, the fact that he lost and that he just got shot, but I give Ryan a lot of props for making Kylo a more developed and a better character. And looking back with the retrospective of The Last Jedi, you can kind of see that The Force Awakens really kind of actually made a pretty good character. I think when Snoke tells him, the deed splits your your soul or something like that. You can really see that, and just having heard that, you realize that and of course his Vader fandom and his all sorts of little things kind of just makes him a unique character, because Kylo's not Anakin, even though they look alike. Anakin, I guess, fell with good intentions, but Kylo just wanted to be Vader for the sake of being Vader. Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes him an interesting character.
I was hinting at the whininess of Anakin. You mean like that petulant child act? Yeah, and also and also to the through line we see when we're not talking about The Last Jedi today, but when we see the through line through The Last Jedi, and we still haven't seen, if you're listening to this in the future, we haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. With Kylo defeating, when Vader wants to defeat the Emperor and have Luke by his side. He wants the Emperor and he wants to have Luke by his side. Kylo turns ahead and defeats Snoke, and then wants Rey by his side. So he's actually he's fulfilling his destiny. And you see the seeds of this in The Force Awakens. Like he doesn't know he doesn't know he wants Rey the girl by his side. Like but you could see that through line. It pays off later, but in hindsight, when we revisit this movie, it's like, oh yeah, like that really makes a lot of sense.
And I think his look in the beginning is excellent with the hood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's great, but it's new and it's exciting. So, okay. Force Awakens, it's over. We're leaving the theater. We all loved it. You mean it was, it hit all the right beats. We're going to close this out. So what did this set up for you coming up? Like, I'll go to Matt first here. Like, you've seen the movie. Now we're excited. We've had our first taste of the Disney takeover. What did this seed for you going forward as a Star Wars? Did it mint you out of, because you're a DC guy. We love hearing you wax poetic about all our favorite DC characters, but what did this do? You're also a Knight of the Commonwealth, so you're not just a casual fan of Star Wars. Oh
no.
What did Force Awakens do going forward for you now?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say, but when I walked out of The Force Awakens, there was not a doubt in my mind that Rey was not a Skywalker. That Rey was a Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
I thought Rey was an absolute 100% complete verified Skywalker. And so when moving on from that movie, I was thinking off of that. So I was thinking, well, how does she connect to the Skywalker lineage? And everybody was thinking, who's Rey? I mean, the movie asks you to ask, who's Rey? And they leave you hanging. Yeah, it begs you. And it was one of those things that, again, JJ set up, but I don't think he knew the answer to. I mean, he may have thought she was a Skywalker, but so I think that was kind of something. I was also really kind of looking forward to knowing more about Snoke, because a little bit about Snoke that we got when the first time I watched the movie, I never got that he was a Force user. It didn't click with me. And then later I'm like, oh, well, he's going to help Kylo finish his training. So obviously, but at the time I thought he was just a politician. Right. And so I'm like, well, that's really interesting. And obviously I wanted to know about all the stuff that it seeded a lot of things that you wanted to know more about, because the whole Force Awakens is mystery box set up and I kicked the can down the road. And so I think for the most part, I was excited to see what they were going to do with Luke. I was sad that we lost Han. But for the most part, I think it set up a lot of questions for me.
Okay, so let me just pose this question real quick then. Do you think JJ thinking this was going to be like an all-star, like we're going to get JJ to do 7, we're going to get somebody else to do, we're going to Ryan do 8, we're going to get somebody else to do 9, or whoever was in the line, the original thought. Do you think this movie would have been different if JJ knew that he had to close out the trilogy? Like, you think, like, he just like you said, kicked it down the road? Was this like, oh, this is tomorrow Lucasfilm problem? Not mine. Right, I'm going to explain this. But you think he would have been different, being like, oh, this might be a tomorrow JJ problem. Oh, JJ doesn't.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. I mean, a lot of people throw shade at JJ because he bungled Lost at the end because they say he can't close anything out, and maybe that's true. I've never actually seen Lost, but it's definitely shown that JJ, and it was actually, I think, really good storytelling on his part, that he set up a whole lot of things so that if they wanted to, the directors that followed him could touch upon it or build upon it. And so he never focused too much on one huge thing. Like, I know a lot of people are like, where were the Knights of Ren? They're like an offhand comment in The Force Awakens. And so if somebody wanted to touch on it, they could. If not, they were Luke's old students, And so he didn't actually like expound upon it and be like, obviously he hit the who's Rey pretty hard. And we all know how that turned out in TLJ, but it's true. I think if JJ realized, oh, I have to close this out at the end, he probably would have reined it in a little more. But like I said, I think he was just kind of setting up the others that followed to have a firm foundation to build off of.
Right. All right, Kyle, leaving aside from 190 more episodes of Tumbling Saber, not including Sith Disturbers and Journals of the Wills and Powerful Friends and oh my god, I get what's the new one now? Luminous Beings.
Yeah, Luminous Beings. That's new. Can't stop myself.
So, what did TFA like going forward? Now here we are. We've all seen it. Actually, we could probably go listen to episode 2 of Tumbling Saber if you.
Actually, you can't.
Oh, right. It's
I've had to jump host so many times that I've lost like the first 50 episodes. They're kind of just gone now. I don't even have them here. They're gone.
Oh, they're just gone forever.
Lost to the ether.
Yep. Lost to history. Gone.
No. Okay, so we can't go back and listen to episode 2 of Tumbling Saber, but what did TFA do going forward?
Well, I was like Matt. I was like, yeah, that's Rey's looking at her dad. For sure. 100%. I was convinced of it. I came off of that, I would say in the months that came later, that maybe it's not. I had been in the fandom long enough by that point to have taken in different viewpoints and go, you know what, maybe she's not, but maybe she still is. I don't know. I think it's left open enough on either end. Then we saw The Last Jedi and it's like, okay, well, probably not now. Like I can't see how you...
Yeah, but was that set up because with Vader being, no, I am your father, were we like, because TFA was mirrored New Hope so beat for beat, were we expecting, here it is? Like, is that what you were thinking at like?
It gets you racing because there's such a precedent for Star Wars with these reveals that there's an expectation that there's always going to be that kind of reveal.
Yeah.
And so far, we're here on waiting for the Rise of Skywalker trailer, but we're still waiting for that reveal in this trilogy because I don't think Kylo being revealed as Han and Leia's son is a strong enough reveal. I think everybody kind of knew that to some degree. Like they reveal that a third of the way through the film.
Oh, even the when he went down to the camp to when he first interrogated, when he found Poe. He was like, I mean, when he was interrogating, I can't remember what the older guy's name
Lor
is.
Santeca.
That's it. When he's saying, yeah, like, no, they hinted at it right there. Like, they weren't leaving. That wasn't going to be, oh, wait till next movie. Like, no, we.
And he calls Vader grandfather, so.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, but that's, but it was like within the first act, like the first scene 1, act 1, like, it was like, okay, yeah, this is what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and so TFA leaves us with the literal cliffhanger with Rey handing Luke the saber
on the cliff.
Races. Yeah. They're like, all right, now Luke's going to be back. This torment of where's Luke is over. We're going to pick up The Last Jedi, or episode 8 at the time, moving on with Luke. And I thought that was father-daughter, eventually moved off that, but my mind got racing as to, and I think a lot of fans did this. We thought that Luke would kind of move in and take center stage, because that's where our brains went. And I guess I think fans maybe a certain age, or if you grew up with Star Wars, you were ready for Luke now to kind of, thanks, you did your job, I'll take it from here. Yeah. And that was kind of the expectation, even for me to a certain point. And then I read a book called The Legends of Luke Skywalker prior to The Last Jedi coming out. And I was like, oh, this book was branded Journey to The Last Jedi. Right. So obviously it gave me some insights into this, at least the psyche of Luke. And the book was not at all what I was expecting.
Right.
You know, if you were thinking that you were going to get sort of the Luke from Legends, where he was like just marching into battle and lightsabers and force powers,
Godlike.
At that point, I was like, okay, well, all right, let's get into these Luke adventures, and it was the total inverse, and it was interesting, but I was like, okay, I've got to put that version of Luke away because we're not getting that. That's not going to be the Luke we get, and it started to click and make sense and go, yeah, you know what? Luke wasn't that guy, even in the OT. Like, he throws away his saber. Luke doesn't. By the end, he doesn't want to fight anybody. And so it's like, okay, get your head right around Luke.
Yep.
I feel fortunate for that because if I hadn't read that book, who knows what my reaction to Luke would have been in The Last Jedi? Like, oh, maybe I would have been on that hate train with so many others saying that they ruined Luke. I doubt it, but yeah. So I mean. We got Rey, we got Luke going forward. That was enough for me. Like, I was intrigued enough with those two to just be enthralled with the direction of the new trilogy. And
for myself going forward after this, again, TFA spawned this podcast. It's for me. It was it was just back. And I was excited, and I was like, wow. I'm like, I live in a day and age where when this comes out on digital and on Blu-ray at the time, I'm like, I'm going to be able to watch this Star Wars over and over and over and over again. Like, when it took me 10 years to get to the point where I was like, oh, now I can watch Star Wars over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like from the original trilogy.
Yep.
So it was the excitement of, wow, like, this is what it feels like again, to wait 2 years for another Star Wars movie. Now, granted, we had Rogue One and now we had Solo, but so we're getting these, and we have a lot more television content. Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
Yeah, we have books and comics and all this other stuff. But the excitement of, just for that saga story, I gotta wait another 2 years to see that. I can't, and the excitement of it, and for me, starting this podcast, Mark Godsiff messaging me a couple months before Celebration Orlando. Hey, Rob, let's why don't you go? Oh, no, that's not for me. It literally changed my life. I'm like, you know what? I just did it. I went. So now I'm a regular at these things now. I went to a Celebration in Chicago. The second Anaheim tickets went on, I'm going. Like, it's not even a question anymore. It's just something that I do now. It's like my hunting trip with the boys. like it's my time. It's just a known fact. If there's Celebration going on, I'm going. And before, it was a dream. It was like, I would never do that. Now it's something I save for, and I do. It's become, to be in the moment now. And I think this time, when I was at Celebration in Chicago, in the crowd, and we're all watching the trailer drop for episode 9, the excitement of being with thousands of like-minded individuals. I'm in this moment to see the trailer for Last Jedi. I was there with Mark Godsiff. I was there with Ash from the Skyhoppers. We're all there watching this stuff for the first time, being able to critique at the same time. And this is, I know these are the other movies, but this is what TFA did going forward. Now I got, how many times have we done roundtables, or I've been on Tumbling Saber and we've just talked Star Wars?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of 40-year-olds, just literally a couple guys in their 40s talking Star Wars all the time. Like, that's what TFA went going forward. Aside from wondering, what's Luke going to do? What's this? How are they going to react to Han? Is Han really dead? Because it's Star Wars, no one's really dead.
Well, and there's that criticism that's still going on about how TFA should have been different. How dare they throw out George's ideas? Which, do you really think they would have started with the microscopic world of midichlorians?
No. Oh, people would have loved that. They would have loved that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you can understand Disney saying, no, let's make this familiar. Also, the byproduct of making it familiar is that you take the safe formula, but here we all are.
Yeah.
Right. Here we all are as communities, as podcasts, as a fandom, going completely bananas. Yep. Like, who knows what would have happened if they followed through on George's script, focused on midichlorians and who knows what else. And people go, really? Like the M word, Disney? Like you decided to buy this franchise and then kick it off with midi-chlorians? So
oh, it would have been bad. It would have been TLJ level bad.
Like it would have been awful. Like Star Wars would have gotten off on the wrong foot, and I'm glad that in hindsight that fine, it was a safe, predictable movie, but again, here we all are enjoying Star Wars at whatever age you're at. I never thought for a second that I'd be into my 40s more into Star Wars than at any other point in my life. It's ridiculous that this is where we're at, but look how much fun we're having.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's pretty awesome. And again, it's like for all of us too. Look what it's done for collecting. I'm not a huge collector. I have some new things like those exclusives, those 3-pack figures there. I actually sent one to Corey there from the last one.
Yeah, I can see it behind you there, Rob.
Oh, you got the two of them. Yeah, I got
all on that.
Yeah. And they're mint, they're unpunched cards, but then again, I stay away from the new stuff. If you all also right beside him there, beside He-Man, it's too bright. It's too bright. You can't see it. And the listeners can't see it anyway. Is my I won that Thrawn from Tumbling Saber draw.
Oh.
He's Black Series Thrawn's in there too. Anyways,
it's definitely true that Disney's return to the Star Wars definitely, of course, Disney's really good at just kind of like connecting everything. And so like the toys and the Legos and just everything just kind of zoomed forward in a big way that just kind of like was like, I'm not going to say no to more Star Wars Legos ever.
No, exactly. So you got all these. Again, I'm not a brand new collector because I'm a completionist, and people know the show, and I've said this before. I can't pull that string because I won't do it. I've been to 2 celebrations. I've been to a San Diego Comic-Con now. I go into a Hamilton, Ontario Comic-Con next weekend or 2 weekends from now. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm always around these places but for me, I built an R2D2 and it's not a regular. It's not like a model kit or a Lego. He's literally living. He's in my master bedroom. Actually,
he looks flipping awesome.
He's actually, he's in. If you would have told me, I would be inviting somebody into my wife and I's bedroom. At this point in my life, I would have never guessed it would be R2D2.
He's very handy. I mean, let's give it to him. He can do a lot of stuff.
He is, and you know what? It's kind of cool having R2 in the corner of your room watching over you. You know what I mean?
It worked for Padme. Well, kind of.
Still,
it could have worked. You think he had it down?
Yeah. So, and again, going forward, this is what it was all about. So this TFA. We've done all the retrospectives. We even covered the Clone Wars movie. So we're doing them in order. Next one, stay tuned. We got Rogue One coming up next, which is another. It's not really not divisive, but just like a new, fresh take outside of the saga. Our first step into what are they doing other than the Skywalker story? That's coming up next on the retrospective series. But this one it kicks something off. It's almost like doing this retrospective reminded me of doing the New Hope retrospective. You know what I mean? It was like nobody knew what was going to happen until it happened. And now here we are. You know what I mean? We're 4 years later and now we're expecting Rise Skywalker. It's just awesome. So once more around the horn, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're doing. You got any online projects or where people can DM you? Matt, what do you got going on? You got some Lego stuff, don't you?
Oh yeah.
That's understanding.
You can find me on, I do some stop motion. You can find me at Pure Genius Lego on YouTube. You can find me at Pure Genius Lego on Twitter, screaming about Justice League and Snyder and whining about that. and then you can check out a podcast that I'm doing. It's called Halo Mega Construct. It's where I just talk about the Halo universe and the Mega Construct toys that go with it.
Cool. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, Kyle, you have half a dozen podcasts on the Tumbling Saber umbrella?
Sure. I don't know who counts anymore. But yeah, find me at Tumbling Saber on Twitter. And if you're so inclined, you can find Tumbling Saber and all the Commonwealth podcasts on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever you call it.
Yes, the Star Wars Commonwealth. That's the network we're in, and that's why we are all here. This show is actually hosts and knights of the Star Wars Commonwealth from all across. What do we have now? San Diego Sabers, Sandcrawlers, Rogue Squadron Podcast, Generation X-Wing, Nerd Room, the Tumbling Saber. We got Retro Inc. Of course, Talk Star Wars. What you're listening now? Am I missing anybody?
Rogue Squad? Did we say Rogue Squad?
I said Rogue Squad. Yeah. I was doing. If you are fans of the show, I was going around geographically. I did the States, then I came West Side Canada, and then I eventually ended up in the UK.
So, there we go.
Okay, yeah, you can find myself. I do a weekly show with my good buddy Roman LeBeau. It is not Star Wars and it is not for kids. It's just a couple dudes hanging out, commenting on trending headlines and what's going on in the world, and just basically our own tomfoolery. So check out the Roman. Yes, tomfoolery. Check out the Roman Podcast that release Wednesday at 3 p.m. every week, or you can check us out. We do this new thing on YouTube. We live stream every episode.
Oh, nice.
We never promote our YouTube channel. Like we get very little views just because we're a podcast. But because when we live stream to Facebook and Twitter, and when you live stream to YouTube, it's literally an extra box you tick, and boom, you have YouTube content. I don't have to do anything to it. So it's a really great thing for other podcasters looking into that. So check us out on all those platforms. That's the Roman Podcast. You can also find myself here. I do the TSW Round Table thanks to my good buddy Rob Wade, who runs Talk Star Wars. And you know that because if you're listening to this, you're listening to the Talk Star Wars feed. So again, thanks so much, Rob Wade. And thanks so much for all the work you do, especially with your Emotionally 14. He sponsors Talk Star Wars, and in turn, which sponsors the Roundtable with Emotionally 14, the Tumbling Saber podcast, also the Roman Podcast. So the Roman Podcast is under an umbrella somewhere with some Star Wars guys, which is, hey, you can't help but be fun, right?
It's an intriguing smell in that room.
Yes, it is.
It's very interesting. It's a good mix.
If you're going to listen to, Crazy Train, Roman Podcast, Nerd Room, Tumbling Saber, Talk Star Wars, you're going to get, it'd be a hard mixtape to make. You'd have to have Nerd Room, Tumbling Saber, Sith Disturbers, Roman Podcast, Crazy Train, Talk Star Wars. There would have to be some sort of flow. When you're in your progression of listening. So
sounds like a crazy thing.
It is, yes. So until next time when we cover the Rogue One, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for Matt and Kyle. We'll see you next time. Later.